I would love to see a Lucian. The Lucian representation apparently went up this event, and seeing one right now would be pretty cool. But we are going to see that overnumbered Draven that you just mentioned. But will his opponent be that Lucian that we've been itching to see as its popularity has been increasing?
So we've got the glorious
Oh,
executioner. What is our opponent playing?
it's the
Rek'Sai!
yes, it's the other. It's one half of your desired matchup. You got at least one of those Shirimans out there.
I'll take the 50-50.
Not bad at all. And
That's
we
all.
did just see a red yellow deck in Darius last round, so it'll be interesting to see how this red yellow deck plays in comparison, being in the same domains but having more than likely a completely different play style in the way that Rek'Sai approaches the game.
So I'm going to presume it's the standard Immortal Phoenix. Let me explode things on both fields as much as I can. Variant that we've been seeing lots of recently, which into Draven is actually fairly good because obviously, as we've seen before, if you Draven can't keep units going or the Draven itself going, it generally just falls by the wayside.
Yeah, and then a Targon's Peak from Draven, not Zon Warrens like we've seen in Miracle Draven decks, so more leaning towards a potential mid-range Draven list, but that Rek'Sai deck, I'm not entirely familiar with the deck that you're describing. Would you care to elaborate a little bit more on the Immortal Phoenix Rek'Sai game plan?
So the game plan is you blow things up on both sides of the fields with Cooler Weeks. Because you've destroyed something that turn, you can then bring back the Mortal Phoenix. You've got yourself a beautiful red card floating in the air. Generally speaking, you want to run the Sun Disc as well, so that way you can get it accelerated on the same turn, and then you can move it out again.
Oh,
Opening
okay,
hand for
that's
Draven looks a
interesting.
bit. Oh, by then, watch Mouse Blizzard.
Interesting. So it is going to be a mid-range Draven as we see the Mind Splitter and Brynhere Thundersong. Brynhere in the main is an interesting choice too. I'm not sure if that's become more common now. I thought Brynhere was typically seen in sideboards a little bit more, but it's such a powerful card in this current meta, a Draven-centric meta. I don't see any issues running it in the main in at least one or two copies.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of lists running it as like the one of, and then like another one in the side normally as like an additional boost, especially with all the spellcasters you got going around currently. A lot of the Victors with their kill spells, Rek'Sai with kill spells, Kaiser that's just a kill spell deck at this point. So it is there as just like your safety net.
Yes, and we get to see both players coming in with the drip having alt arts for both their legend and chosen champions. So it's always nice to get to see these beautiful new cards on display in these early
A foil
days
for
of
sure.
a format.
No, it's nice to see. Actually, very luckily for the Rek'Sai that the regular art for that card is also very pretty, as it is her breaching the sands.
That is a very cool artwork. I actually tend to enjoy that artwork a little bit more. But I can't fault anyone for running, the min-maxed rarity of a card like that Rek'Sai alt art.
No, it's got some lovely falling on it, to be fair, and it is the frosty skin, so I can see why people want the contrast of the hot sandy overnumber into the frosty. Moving the treasure hunter out now just to get themselves that early gold, as Draven is a little bit power hungry, as one would be if you are the gladiator's best.
And also triggering a star-tipped peak, enabling him to do a little bit of an Annie impersonation here on tapping 2 at the end of the turn as he establishes his Draven champion unit from his chosen champion zone to that target's peak as well to go for a hold, potentially utilizing the defensive ability of the Draven. Although he did untap a red rune, so we'll see if he ends up wanting to use that, as he'd have to float a rune. Nothing too special, but something to consider as a seal comes out for Rek'Sai to start this Rek'Sai's turn.
Yeah, Rexar's one of those very weird ones that is actually very seal hungry, just because they want to get more Legion plays off because they kind of have that same mentality that Darius does, but unfortunately for them, not quite the same mentality with their decks pushing, but with the effect of the Rek'Sai digging faster and deeper. So the baited hook variant isn't really needed that often. And just a fun fact, because I don't know if anyone mentioned it after last game, Darius is the older of the two brothers.
That was my assumption as well, being one of the Noxian generals, but We're going to see the Rek'Sai utilizing its hero ability to tap itself and reveal a top two, finding a hidden blade and an honest broker, it looks like. So, will he elect to just drop this cheap unit out, you getting an effective card draw off of his leader effect, or potentially even use the hidden blade to answer this Draven?
We're
And it
looking
is going to
to
be the
see a
hidden
Draven
blade.
go pop. Now, I'm also a bit concerned about giving Draven two free cards because Draven loves free cards. But as we've seen before, Draven does suffer if Draven can't stay on the board.
And we did see in the starting hand of Draven, I'm not sure that if he mulliganed it away or not. He did have a hard bargain. So with that 2 mana up, thanks to the Targon Speak, he could look to hard bargain this if he really wants to force this Rek'Sai. And yes, there it is, the hard bargain. Is the Rek'Sai willing to pay the extra 2 to get rid of this Draven, or did he have something else in mind for these 3 runes on his turn?
I feel like it's probably more advantageous for the Rek'Sai to get rid of that Draven than it is to sort of keep those runes safe, because their back is empty. You're not on the offshoot here anymore. You're still holding with the other Rek'Sai, and just get their power card off the field as quick as you can.
Yes, and that is what he likes to do, which is going to give the Draven the 2 draws, the draw 2 as you spoke of, and now Draven potentially having a pretty decent hand size advantage going into this turn, but will he be able to capitalize on it with only 6 runes? I'm not sure that this Draven is running Boots of Swiftness. We could see something like a Boots of Swiftness, like the Aurelia was utilizing in the Aurelia mirror match, to get this treasure hunter to go back and forth and try and generate a bunch of gold, as well as clear out this Rek'Sai. The Rek'Sai is only 3 might, and using the Boots of Swiftness would get is to a tie, and then something simple like a Blood Rush or a Cleave or anything like that, even an equip like a Spinning Axe, could seal the deal and make this, as we see a Spinning Axe in his hand now, make this treasure hunter a formidable foe.
Yeah, I think we've seen a lot of Draven sort of get rid of the equipments beside the spinning axes because the spinning axes are just absolutely insane for their costage, as well as being a quick draw as well. Um, Seeing the double switcheroos doesn't really matter right now, but I could imagine them putting it underneath the treasure hunter just to upset somebody if they don't want to just keep, he said, generate more gold. But again, I think it's a good idea. Your opponent doesn't have anything on the back. No ganking from Rek'Sai, so it's not like they can hold the Zorn Orange, then cross over to the peaks. So for right now, I think Draven's in a decent position. But again, on the play, they will be going to 2 on both sides.
As we see the gold spent and 2 mana tapped, we're going to probably see the Spinning Axe deployed. A definite power card, one that only Draven has access to, but as we saw in the previous round, with that Darius, how much work Longsword put in, there is a potential to start to see Draven's also utilize Longsword alongside the Spinning Axe, even though the Spinning Axe is a clear winner in terms of power for cost. The fact that the Spinning Axe can be destroyed so easily makes the Longsword something to not overlook entirely, as that card tends to stick around a bit longer.
It is unfortunate we just did the longsword in hand, so they could have tested if they had 1 extra rune up, but unfortunately, not today.
And now we get the Conquer discard draw from the Zon Warren. It's going to discard one of those switcheroos, as you said, not doing a whole lot in this current game state. And with having another one in hand already, don't need the redundancy of another switcheroo. And now we get to see this treasure hunter run away with a boatload of gold generation that is going to enable more spinning axes and cards like switcheroo to be deployed without hindering the overall rune count, which is one of the things that makes Treasure Hunter such a good early 2 drop if you are able to get it out on turn 1 as this Draven was.
We do have Void Rush in hand, so we can kind of look at the top deck, see what we can get off of it as we're a bit loose on stuff. Or we're just going to put down the Immortal Phoenix. Okay, that also works too. Getting out a unit is fine. Not really a fan of this combo if you can't get anything else extra, but getting 2 things on the field for your turns, not the worst thing in the world, although you are very far behind now.
Yes, and this more or less confirms your suspicion that this is the Immortal Phoenix variant of Rek'Sai. Now we have to see what Draven has left up his sleeve to continue to pump up this treasure hunter. Will we see something like Boots of Swiftness, or will he start to now apply other units to the board, as so far it's been an all treasure hunter show from the Draven. And I do see that Overzealous has come into the hand. We see a Falling Star. Looks like another Overzealous. Bryn here, the Void, or the Mind Splitter, I'm sorry, and Switcheroo. So quite a few options from the Draven, but not a whole lot to establish that is too threatening outside of potentially using the Mind Splitter this turn and having that plethora of gold, but instead electing to just remove those 2 units from the back row and use the 2 gold that way. One of the things that makes Kaisa such a formidable leader is reducing that power cost of Void Seeker, or I'm sorry, Falling Star to 1. And now the gold saying, well, how about we just make it free?
Yeah, it makes it very interesting. Seeing more and more Fallen Stars played in Draven, just because I think they also need some kind of like backline kill threat, is not the worst thing in the world. Although that Immortal Phoenix is immortal for a reason, and hopefully we'll get to see it come back again later in the game. But already halfway through these points, it's looking a lot better for the Draven, unfortunately.
And Draven drawing another spinning axe, going to be something that can see this treasure hunter become rather large. A 7 might treasure hunter is pretty difficult to deal with, as well as discarding yet another switcheroo. So kind of showing that this card isn't really doing a whole lot in his mind in this matchup, at least maybe not in this current junction. So potentially a card we might see sided out going into the next game, but Draven is seemingly banging on all cylinders, and it's going to be a tall order to see this Rek'Sai figure out how to come back from this current game state. But as you said, the Immortal Phoenix being immortal, we will more than likely see back soon enough.
So I do fancy the Void Rush right now in case we can get ourselves another kill spell. Get rid of that pesky treasure hunter. But
Darius
Darius wants
coming
the same
in.
thing.
Not bad. 7 might
No,
with
no.
essentially accelerate. And is the Rek'Sai deck also playing cards like we saw within the Darius deck previously, that like the new, I'm drawing a blank. Sorry, the 2 mana kill one of your units to buff another one of your units spell that we saw Darius make a lot of use out of in his match.
The Death Grip. It's a
Death
very
Grip, yeah.
interesting card. I feel like it's not as useful in Rek'Sai as it is in maybe Darius himself. Mostly seen in Fiora and the Brutalizer build of Ezreal, not Ezreal, Azir, as it makes sense to be passing on the additional mites as you can. But is that double Void Rush?
A Void
Bang.
Rush into Void Rush. Wow, somebody has max CDR
So go, go, go.
and call the week, call
Ooh.
the week.
Double Call the Week. Well, that can bring back the Phoenix if you really want to.
Wow, pair into pair. We see double Void Rush into double Call the Week. Very, very unlucky in this current status of the game, because he does not want to use that to kill his own Darius.
No, but you can bring it to hand those and just draw them instead. So not the worst thing in the world. So now you know there's kill threat on your opponent's side. But are you really interested in, as you said, killing your only current unit? Although it
Not
would bring
only
you back
that,
your Immortal Phoenix for the cost of one.
oh, okay, and two, the idea that now the Draven knows a fair amount of the hand texture of his opponent, something that is often overlooked with the Void Burrow's ability, when, or not the Void Burrow's ability, but Void Rush, is because it is a reveal. Now Draven is fully aware that there is another Darius in hand and 2 Cold Weeks, and without even having to utilize the Mind Splitter, he knows half of the hand that his opponent has, and will be able to make some more informed decisions going forward to play around these outs.
Yeah, that is a big issue, to be fair. We do know that there's a Darius in hand as well following turn. So if they really needed to, they could call the week, pop this Darius, pop Swink in the back. Obviously, it's the choice of the Draven if that's the case. Play out the other Darius, and then because you also pop Swing as well, you can also bring back the Phoenix. So you're not in a terrible place. You also have 2 Phoenixes in the trash, I think. So you could bring them both back if you really wanted to. So even more economy for the Phoenixes going down. Darius isn't, sorry, Draven's in a better position than the Rek'Sai right now, but the Rek'Sai is not out by any means. It does matter though, depending on if they just want to start building up that other board, as they are 2 points ahead and started to hold. Could be the game plan for this deck now.
We could see the Mind Splitter deployed here as well, even though, like I said, we already know some of the cards in hand, just to figure out what the rest of the hand looks like for the Rek'Sai. And now that we know that there is a Darius in there, it effectively is a kill spell for Darius, and removing it before it even gets a chance to be played, as now we do see the Mind Splitter come out. And is there a better target, or will he just be taking out that Darius that he saw off of
I think the
the
Darius is
Void
the best one.
Rush?
I think Darius is the main one here because you can know how quickly you can accelerate it. The 7 into 7 is just a very powerful card. The issue, obviously, for Draven is besides the big boy, you are kind of stuck on cards that can't really do much. As you've already lost one of the spinning axes, you don't want to lose the other spinning axe.
Wow,
Honest
seeing
broker,
this, yeah, you're right. That Darius is the clear choice, and it's going to be hard to mount a comeback for the Void Brewer, barring some very fortunate hits off the top of the deck from the leader ability.
so I do think there's one right now where you just want to go cool, and then um, bring back the phoenixes after the calls, just so you can clear their board and oh sorry, you can attempt to clear their board, and then you got yourself 6 month worth of units in the back there.
Looks like we might be seeing this Noxus Hopeful get a spinning axe now, and that is going to be the play. So 7 mana coming, or sorry, 7 might coming out from this Nox is hopeful he'll be able to get over this Darius and remove it, making the Call of the Weeks feel a little less bad, being that he doesn't have to now kill his own Darius. But the drawback is now this Draven has been able to get a draw off of his leader ability because of it.
So I do think the Immortal Phoenix has to kill one of your own units as well, so he could just play out the Honest Broker, get the gold, get the Phoenixes out, and then force the Draven to either kill the Hopeful or the Mind Splitter, which isn't great for either way, as you don't want to be losing your equipment, but you also don't want to be losing your 7 might unit.
Yeah, and it looks like we just saw. Oh no, that might be a rebuke actually. It looked like he discarded a Tide Turner and drew a Tide Turner, but it is actually a rebuke. So he's pretty insulated against a big unit coming in and crashing into his overzealous, and more than likely 7 might is going to be too tall of an order for any units to be able to fight this Noxus Hopeful. So he's pretty priced into using these Call the Weeks. However, the Mind Splitter sitting in the back will still be able to move up next turn, and if Draven is able to accelerate anything out, this could be a swift game one.
Yeah, the Immortal Phoenix is when you kill a unit with a spell, you may play one and a Red Fury to play me for the turn from the trash. I think the issue a lot of people was, I don't know if this got erratic, 'cause a lot of people say you had to kill your own unit, so if that's the case, just double cull. I think would be the play here. Get rid of 2 things on your opponent's side of the field, get the Phoenixes out, and then just, you know, ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like he either is not familiar with that ruling or is just interested in getting that gold from the death knell off of the honest broker.
Which
So
isn't
we
all.
are going to see the
Oh,
first the
angry.
coal of the week come out. I noticed, or I recall you mentioning the sun disk as a way to essentially accelerate these phoenixes out when you do trigger them, as we're seeing now. But is there a potential to see bushwhack as well in a list like this to kind of build that redundancy towards having an effect that allows you to accelerate these phoenixes out?
It's definitely something I could see happening. The Sun Disc does come online though as you play out the Immortals, just because of the um, Legion effect of the Sun Disc. But again, Bushwhack is very good because it's just doing the same thing, but for everything that comes out that turn. So yeah, I mean, I can see it happening. Obviously, these are unable to come back out. I don't know what the
Oh,
yeah. So
interesting.
I don't
Value
know
in
what the
keeping the
implications
spinning
here
axe.
for the call. I presume because it's not in the trash when the call goes off, it doesn't count as bringing itself back, maybe. But again, having a 3 might into 5 might with the assault 2 is going to be quite effective. There is a longsword hand for the Rek'Sai player, which would mean they would trade with the Noxus Hopeful.
It's looking like good game as Darius Trifarian's going to come out and trigger its ability to stand up and gain that +2 might, come in for 7, and yes, that is all
That's
she
all she
wrote for
wrote.
game one.
Very good. So
Very
no, even
swift.
though Rek'Sai did have some good plays early on, it just unfortunately didn't work out too well for them. As there's a lot of good red cards in Draven, unfortunately, and quite a few of them have acceleration free, at least one of.
Hmm.
I think that seems to be the issue for a lot of people. They just can't give away those runes as easily as other decks could.
And the only reason I bring it up is because of the, like you mentioned before, that the Rek'Sai is a seal reliant deck, and having double seal out that game and having multiple seals could allow you to facilitate a card like that. But perhaps it's not something that you really want to be playing around in a deck that is trying so hard to find stuff off the top to utilize off of its leader ability. But being that this is an Immortal Phoenix deck, having that as an additional removal spell to trigger the Immortal Phoenix seems like it could be worth investigating.
Yeah, we could do with actually seeing a bit more of the deck, to be fair, to see what this Rek'Sai is actually playing overall. That is the unfortunate thing about not knowing what these decks are. But as you said, there's quite a few treasure making opportunities in this deck. There is obviously the runes, so it's not always the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, we saw the Honest Brokers, and I'm wondering whether or not Rek'Sai also being, again, a deck trying to utilize removal spells for Immortal Phoenix would play something like Blood Money also.
Yeah, there's a good chance. Again, not really seeing much Rek'Sai overall, and we are getting like less sort of representation. Deck lists are also very hard to come by. A lot of them do seem to just be running the same cards, so it is a case of, no, like I said, like a prison version of the deck. But hopefully we'll see a few extra cards that we didn't see last game and see like what this Rek'Sai is either sided into or just like what the deck has for play options.
And using the Obelisk of Power to bring out the turn one Rek'Sai champion unit. It's always very nice to see. Something that I've overlooked this entire time is the fact that that unit can also facilitate the acceleration of those Immortal Phoenix. So definitely something to consider if he can keep this thing alive. But being so susceptible to something like a falling star, it'll be difficult to see whether or not he'll actually be able to utilize its effect to accelerate some phoenixes from the trash.
So they do have a cult of the week in the hand, so I don't know if it's worth just getting the point, using the candlelight visual, and then just culling the week to get rid of the Draven on the other side to put them both at a in brackets disadvantage. If there is a second unit in the hand, though, it could be quite good for the Rek'Sai player. I do think they kept the hopeful. I don't think they bottom decked it, as it would be very good to just call and then go into the hopeful for a cost of 4 overall.
He is utilizing the Candlelit Sanctum to get an extra opt before deciding whether or not he wants to utilize Rek'Sai's Voidbearer ability to play one of these cards off the top, choosing to bottom deck one and leave one on top, and now he will go ahead and decline the activation, it looks like.
Yep, going for the call. Very good.
Just as you said, the call of the week to stop this Draven from getting any kind of momentum going off of his Draven champion unit, getting that draw from a combat plus a gold from the said combat, just valuing the fact that he can score that easy point, like you said, and then answer that Draven immediately and still be able to deploy a Noxus Hopeful to the base for next turn, now giving him a 1 point advantage and a unit advantage on board. Very nice play from the Rek'Sai.
So I'm not too sure if chat's asking. The main reason why is because when we see Draven players play, they normally just get absolutely flustered if you kill their Draven early as possible. Forerunner coming on their turn 2, though, is nothing to scoff at, and is an absolutely astonishing card for what it wants to do.
Yeah, that's the power of the Obelisk of Power, giving him the ability to turn 1 deploy a champion unit while he's going second, into turn 2 deploy the Ferris Forerunner. Very powerful turn 1 and turn 2 from Draven. Even though he lost the Draven champion unit to that Call of the Week, still not something to snuff at, as now we see the Rek'Sai move up and once again trigger his Candlelit Sanctum. And we'll see if he actually goes for a Rek'Sai activation, as we do see a Voidbearer on top, which is a premium card to be able to play off of the leader's ability.
Yeah, that's what I'm considering right here. Do we just want to put that back on top, put the one on the bottom, go into the Void Rush, dig more deep, and see what we can do here? I wonder if they're playing the small. Ooh,
Piercing Light.
yeah, put that in the hat. You got no draw it. Oh wait, no, sorry, it's the way around. Yeah, you can't draw it. Just wait, not do Void Rush just yet. There's a Void Rush first. Look, again, it is a bit of a shame because you kind of do want to have a piercing light to hand. And again, one of those kill spells that we talked about earlier. So what do we get from the top? We get,
We got
yeah, cost
Brimir
nothing to keep
Thundersong.
around. But we also get in the no more spells for you guy, which again will be very good, sort of that 6 point mark, getting it down, try and hold 2 battlefields. I can see that being the plan later on. Again, we are on the play here with the Rek'Sai going 2-0 currently, but that Forerunner might want to start showing its big body shortly, as it can just push back in any moment now. And getting another Noctis Hopeful out for a cost of 2 is always a good plan for anyone that can run this card.
Yes, Noxus Hopeful is one of the premium cards in the Fury domain for sure. Being a 2 mana 4/4 in most cases is so powerful, especially when you're fighting a deck like this where you're so just priced into trying to get as many cards on board to be able to overwhelm the Draven before they can get stuff established like Affairs Forerunner with some spinning axes and get these big units, because you don't have the easy answers like you do in purple with stuff like Rebuke and Fight or Flight. You do have the kill spells, but as we know, the Ferris Forerunner doesn't mind being KO'd as much as it minds being bounced.
Well, that's it. Yeah, you prefer to have your opponent pop it for you, so that way you get 2 more mechs out of it. So, yeah, the game plan is there. It's just, can it work is the question.
As we see a pretty decently sized hand from the Draven,
Mm.
Kaisa and Ferris, or a Kaisa Spinning Axe, a Noxus Hopeful, I think potentially a Falling Star as well. It looks like he has quite a lot of room to work with as he goes ahead and deploys a Kaisa non-accelerated just back to the base, and maybe even is going to buffer up with this. No, he's actually going to just do exactly like we saw the Rek'Sai. Get the cheap value of the 2 for 4 while you can, and these Noxus Hopefuls are really putting in a lot of work for both players.
They are definitely indeed a great card in red, and I can see them being like probably one of the mainstays for a long time until we get somehow an even crazier card down the line. Another Noxus Hopeful, that's all free for the sort of Rek'Sai now. I'm glad that they didn't throw down the spinning axes early, because otherwise that salvage would have been devastating, especially with the then 2 cost Noxus coming down. Do you just walk something into the other area just to get yourself on the 3 points, is the question. And the issue is here, you can't really get rid of that Phoenix, is also a little bit of a problem.
Looks like we also see a second copy of the Rek'Sai Champion unit, this time not alternate art, but we could see that come down alongside the Phoenix to start to enable that play pattern we spoke about by recurring the Phoenix and being able to accelerate it. Although, once again, if the Draven does have something like a Falling Star, that play is very susceptible to it.
Well, we did say about the Hex deck right earlier, so
Well, what do you know? The Hextech Ray comes out and goes immediately to the bottom, but we are going to get a seal out of the deal. So 1 mana floating and a seal on board. Still quite a bit of runes to work with. Does he have anything that can answer the back row here, or will he just be priced into trying to take out this Ferris Forerunner and look to deal with the board at a later time?
so gonna go for a Phoenix. Might as well. Spend your 1 floating. That'll be very good next turn if it gets to stay alive. And then you can do 2 more to get out the other Noxus Hopeful. And that's yourself up
Yes.
for a nice board state at the end. So there you go, you got a nice amount of might in the back there. On your play, that Phoenix will be a 5 might unit, so you can walk that into pretty much anything you want to on the other side.
Leaving 2 mana up, but not much to do with it defensively, I believe, as salvage is not an action speed, is it?
Salvage is, I say it was, thought it was action.
Oh, okay, so he could use that to out the spinning axe that we know the Draven has. So now Draven coming up with a point deficit, but a still scary looking board, even though Rek'Sai has managed to get quite an impressive board himself this game. Draven obviously having quite a bit of hand can look to see what this Rek'Sai is trying to do with the 2 mana up, which at the current moment looks like Not much. Could use that Hextech Ray. Not sure if that's part of the plan, but potentially see that salvage if the spinning axe does come out. But not much reason to deploy the spinning axe prematurely, as you stated before.
I think the Hextech Ray got put to the bottom of the deck, unfortunately, but the salvage is ready to go. Unfortunately, with the amount of rune economy that the Draven has, that hard bargain is just going to get slammed down either way.
And now we're seeing one of the best cards in Chaos, the
Ooh.
stacked deck, which is going to give him access to the top 3 cards and some great cards he's seeing here. What do you think he's going to go for out of these?
Stack deck.
Stack deck, and the stack deck actually likes to take the hard bargain.
So I think he's just in a very good position either way here for the Draven. He's got full control now. He's got enough might on the battlefield to sort of contest really what he wants to. The Foreigner is going to make 2 more free might mechs. So it's not really that bad of a plan if you want to try and take back the Candlelight's Vigil. We obviously know about the spinning axes. You kind of hope on the sort of Rek'Sai that the Draven does just tap out as much as he can on the following turn.
And we
Just
do
that way
see
you
the
don't get
overzealous.
I think you're going to walk in with 2 units anyway on the following turn with the play. You think probably like at least one of the Mortal Phoenixes and one of the Hopefuls will walk into the Obelisk of Power. One gets bounced back because of the Overzealous fan. Draven will then hopefully try and counter with the Spinning Axes, your salvage in response, and then it will just be a trade.
We also know that Draven has the fight or flight in hand, so could elect to also hide that here or leave mana open to deploy it on defense. He does have double hard bargain in hand, in fact, being well aware that his opponent has Cull the Weeks and Hidden Blades and lots of removal spells, just wants to be able to keep enough mana up to utilize these hard bargains and make it difficult for Rek'Sai to use spells to answer the board state that he set up with 10 might over there at the Obelisk of Power and the ever looming Ferris Forerunner at Candlelit Sanctum.
Yeah, I mean, the Rek'Sai's not out of this now. There's both at 3 points each. Rek'Sai can still kind of whittle away at this board state. I think it was a Hidden Blade. Too sure here.
And with 6 resources up, the Draven does have the ability to double hard bargain this turn and effectively make something cost 6 additional runes if he really wants it. Not sure that we'd ever see a play like that, but it is interesting to see that he already had a hard bargain and elected to grab a second one off of the stacked deck, so potentially putting some high priority on that card.
Because as you said, we know this is a prison-style Rek'Sai deck for the most part. You do kind of just need to keep yourself ready to stop any of those Fallen Stars or Salvages, or in this case, Hidden Blades or Calls. So it's not a bad call, to be fair. Oh, what are we going for?
The Brynhir Thundersong potentially is going to come down, which, yes, it is. So
Yes.
now forcing the Draven to respond with a reaction now if he wants to play anything. Seeing
Gonna
that
use
this,
spinning Rek'Sai, yeah.
yeah, seeing that this Draven had left 6 runes up, he is basically calling him out, saying, if you planned on using those here, you got to use them right now on whatever you have. And after that, it's all just math for me.
Mm. No, very good position here. I don't dislike this at all. Hopefully, though, we'll see something useful here.
It looks like he's going to go for that spinning axe, but
Yeah.
he's putting it on the overzealous fan, actually.
So it's 4-4-4, right? So that way it's more of a contested spot, so everything sort of crashes and nearly dies.
4-4-5, in
I
fact, even for the overzealous
expect
fan.
you to now just salvage the axes and just upset the Draven as much as possible. That's the reason you played the Thunderstorm, right? Right?
Just to really try to make them regret this premature deploy of the spinning axe by salvaging it. Giving his opponent the opportunity to respond with the overzealous trigger,
There we go.
which he declines, and now he does get salvaged as a result. So taking away 3 might and giving a card draw, not a bad play from Rek'Sai. Rek'Sai now being tapped out, of course, won't be able to really do much with the Rek'Sai leader ability off after the fact, so more than likely we will not see him tap it. But now we're presenting 13 might to the 10 might from Draven, which is going to wipe the board out over at Obelisk of Power and leave him with just his Immortal Phoenix left.
Which no is fairly good play. This is kind of what I wanted to see from this. You can still play 2-cost things for free from the top there. From the oh wait, no, can you?
Not from the Void Borer, only
No,
from Void Rush.
I mean, it's probably not too bad if you wanted to just to sort of say, hey, I want to get to a deeper unit. I know there's like 3 of my Dravens, sorry, my Darius is in there, so I just want to dig a bit deeper. That could help the situation. But again, I think he's in a good place right now. You know, he's got at least another unit in hand. I think there's 2 units in hand, and then maybe a Piercing Light.
And 10
So
runes to work with for Draven, so even though he's been reset to just the Ferris Forerunner on board, still a lot of things that can come out here as we see the Tide Turner rather. He can Tide Turner to his base and get that Forerunner to attack the Obelisk of Power and force that hidden card out of his opponent. We also see Ride the Wind, but we are going to go for the Tide Turner and see about what we can do to this Rek'Sai while he's tapped out.
yeah, it's good to see people can get Tide Turners as essentially a fight or flight with a body. That way, trying to help you move around the board a bit more smoothly, especially with some of these units that can't get ganking or you can't physically force like a Swifties in your deck. So it's good to see that people are actually thinking more of these plays. But again, that's Forerunners just going to start walking into that Obelisk and, well, fighting fire with fire. Oh, or we just got Darius as
Darius.
one of the other one.
Draven calling in his older brother to fight his fights for him. Big 7 might Darius Trifarian coming in ready with a nice Alta Art High Noon skin. What does he fear out of that hidden card? Is he worried about it being a hidden blade? Of course it is, but we are actually just going to see one of those 2 hard bargains come out, and now there is no draw from the Hidden Blade for this Rek'Sai player, as Rek'Sai only has 3 cards left in hand. Gonna get that Phoenix cleared out. Unfortunately, does not look like Draven has the ability to deal with the Bryn here, so Bryn here might be able to come back and answer this Darius, at the very least, the Tide Turner.
Yeah, I'm not too sure what's in hand here. I don't know if we do have a longsword because like it's a yeehaw cowboy. But I am looking forward to see what we can do off this top draw now. We do need something here. I don't know if it's worth just moving the Brynir into the Candlelight. Ignore what I just said. But yeah, Brynir's a 5, so you could clash. There's a switcheroo on the side of the Darius, I believe. So that's going to be a bit awkward to walk into. We did get a Void Rush, though, so that's not too bad.
It's either a switcheroo or a fight or flight, but either way, there's something there to deter this Rek'Sai player from going after the Obelisk of Power, even though Draven only has 1 rune up. Not much to be doing with 1 rune on defense, aside from a stack deck potentially, but what does Rek'Sai have to answer this very oppressive looking board state, as even though he might be able to get rid of this board, there will be 2 3/3 mechs swiftly to follow, and this game is getting closer and closer to its end, as if he's able to hold and go to 7, it's really going to start to put that pressure on Rek'Sai, as now he deploys his signature spell of Void
Ooh.
Rush.
I mean, it doesn't do everything, but it gets rid of something.
Not a bad hit from this Void Rush. Double removal spells and the Phoenix in the drop to boot. To be able to bring it back out here, we are going to see him elect to draw the Hextech Ray and then use his gold plus a recycle to delete this Darius with Falling Star. And it was, in fact, the fight or flight, which is not helpful. It always feels bad when you hide a fight or flight and they use something that doesn't matter or doesn't care whether or not the unit is at a battlefield or not. You can send it back and it just dies anyway. So, going to get a Conquer out for the Rek'Sai player with plenty of runes to
Ooh.
work with. He gets to look at the top 2 and find yet another Void Rush.
I think we Void Rush. I think we just double down.
Just let it ride. Keep looking at the top 2.
Because I
Yep, just
think you
gonna.
have Darius in this, and then you can just put a already accelerated Darius in for a cost of 3.
Um,
So that would probably be the best thing here.
Darius would not come
Ooh, another
in
4-star.
accelerated at this point, right? If he's already played 2 cards, or is this the first?
This is the second card.
Yes, so if Darius was the 3rd card, his effect wouldn't trigger, right?
I think it's at least played a card, right?
I'm not too sure, but we are seeing the falling star again, and he is gonna elect to go for another falling star, really setting all his runes back, but he sees it's worth it as he gets to take out the Forerunner, even though Forerunner is going to replace itself with 2 more 3/3 mechs. He's at least starting to answer this board in some way and make it a little bit of closer of a game, but that hand size not looking too large at this point, so not a lot of answers left for the Draven as Draven comes back to his turn with what looks to be 10 runes. So it's going to be interesting to see whether or not Rek'Sai can get at least something accelerated here to potentially deal with that Tide Turner and get himself up to 6. But no, he's just going to redeploy Phoenix to bolster the Obelisk of Power alongside Bryn here.
So do we just use the Hextech Ray now? Maybe just pop the turns that way they can't hold to 6. That way they have to choose if they want to fight or if they want to just hold.
Something that definitely we might see come out here if he has that Hextech Ray in hand. I don't remember whether or not he has that. Oh, he did draw one off of the Void Rush. That's right. So he's got 1 floating, so 4 mana to work with here. It looks like some kind of judge question going on regarding the Phoenix being a point of contention and how it operates. One of the more interestingly designed cards. Very cool in theme and idea, but can cause a lot of questions on rulings and timings and stuff of that sort.
Yeah, the issue with a lot of the stuff, I don't know if it's I think it is worded a lot better in Chinese, so it's a little bit easier to sort of get the gist of if it's specifically at a point in the game, whereas in English it's a little bit more up to interpretation, as the card does read itself as when a unit is destroyed, which obviously just means like at any point I just kill something, I can just go, okay, I'm going to play this now.
And
But
the
unfortunately, that doesn't always work out, especially if it's like maybe more like a Yu-Gi-Oh effect where it has to be like the last thing on the in brackets chain to resolve.
yeah,
So
looks like
unfortunately,
they're
because
doing a little
obviously,
bit of inspecting to see whether or not everything was paid for appropriately. Potentially, I did see the judges ask to look at the bottom of the rune deck, making sure that everything that needed to be recycled was recycled. So a little bit of a judge call here. A timer has been frozen, but with only 15 minutes left and being in game 2, even if Rek'Sai is able to pull this off, they're not giving themselves much time to come to a decisive conclusion in game 3.
so there was a gold also on the table at the start of this turn as well. So that could be where the contention is, where they've maybe they're missing 1 rune. It's because the gold was spent, which can be the issue. I think with gold being obviously this finite substance that just kind of comes in and out of the ether when it wants to. Um, Maybe for the Rek'Sai, it's probably best if you draw, maybe, as opposed to just instantly losing, because going 4-0 and sorry, in this case 4-1 and 0 is probably much better than going 4-0 and 1.
True, we can see that be the play line that the Rek'Sai goes for, and potentially even there could be some gas if we have yet to see the Bushwhack or Sundisk. So there is potential that that comes out in game 3 and is able to speedily score some points for this Rek'Sai and enable him to go for that 2-point deficit victory in time, should that be where we end up. But this game is far from over. Draven still has plenty to work with, even though it does look like, compared to the first game, Rek'Sai is in a much better position.
Yeah, hitting both of those falling stars on the Void Rushes has just been amazing for this poor little Rek'Sai that had no reason to be just destroying the world with some small meteors, right? I think there's still a Cull in the hand and there is a Hex deck in hand, so I do feel like you want to maybe pop the Tide Turner, make the mechs walk into that on the following turn to either like claim something, or you just try and hold out on the Candlelit then.
We do see the timer back, so play has resumed. Now, are they going to be more mindful of this timer as we've said that it's likely they're going to go to time if they do reach game three? Or is that going to improve the pace of play here as Rek'Sai's second champion unit, this time with the beautiful art, as you mentioned, of him bursting, or her rather, Rek'Sai bursting from the sands and decimating these Shuriman soldiers or whoever was unfortunate enough to be there in the sands of Shurima.
I believe in the story of this specific lore moment, it was just some travelers going from camp to camp, uh, convoying between two different outpost towns. And unfortunately, when you make sounds, if you've ever played the game, you know that she will just be borrowing and just go, ah,
Yeah,
footsteps. Let's go investigate.
I hear you and I'm coming. That's what Rek'Sai is all about as we now pass it over to Draven, who has another one of his signature spells at the ready, a spinning axe, and what looks to be potentially a I'm not sure what that card in the back is. I do see two power, so
Ooh, ooh,
it is the falling star.
you hate to see it.
Yes, you do. You hate to see that Phoenix and Rek'Sai go to the trash immediately. And now with two more runes being tapped, we are probably going to see that, yep, the spinning axe come down, make this 3/3 mech a 6/6 just like his predecessor was, the Ferris Forerunner, which is more than enough to take on Bryn here, who's a mere 5 might with only one rune available on defense for the Void Burrower. We could see that one rune utilized for a Hextech raid to force the trade, but then that does not stop the second mech from just moving in there and scoring up to 7 and really putting the pressure onto our Rek'Sai player as he elects to just let it go. And we go to 7, get another card draw, and we're probably going to see just more cards piled up for a potential hold. And this game looks like it might be going the way of game 1 in favor of Draven as Ferris Forerunner comes down and his little mechling joins him.
Yeah, holding out with that 15 might on that one feels going to be very awkward. Rek'Sai doesn't have any real way of getting rid of things. Ooh, a card you want to see on top, but never want to draw it, unfortunately. And yet, it is the Draven's game, unfortunately. But we are done it in before time for a change, which is nice to see. But it's also good to see a Rek'Sai trying their best. And to answer the Orange's question, I believe the issue for the culling your own Phoenix is the Phoenix doesn't see itself in the trash until after the call resolves, so it didn't see the trigger happen.
Ah, I
I
see.
believe.
Okay, interesting ruling. That does seem like that makes sense. So